Okay, Mr. Davis, could you come up, you've heard some different ideas here. If we put it back on the April 23rd work session agenda, could you come up with some variations of the list to present to council on that? Is that enough time?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we can take further discussion from there and put it on a May agenda if we need to vote on it.
I will do my best to get something out to you guys a week from today.
Thank you, John.
Matt,
Any other questions? I'm sorry.
I don't have a question, I just need a little feedback here. When we do vote for this, it will be for exactly what the proposed projects are. No variance whatsoever. When we get up with the next list and we vote, that's what goes.
No,
Do I understand?
we're voting on the list that we want to advertise. This is the list we were gonna be advertising to voters of potential projects. If they pass the transportation SPLOST, these are potential projects in the city we could spend the money on. The projects still have to come in front of council for votes, for funding and everything else. This is just us, the first step to the advertising is, this is our list of projects we're taking out.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, moving on, consideration action on award of bid for janitorial services. Staff has bid our services, have made a recommendation that we award the contract to Albright Cleaning Services for $24,937.33. Is anything you want to add to that?
Just that I chose the second low bid on that, not first low bidder. I didn't feel they were gonna be qualified. Their bid was very limited. They didn't include a lot of the information we asked for, so I did disqualify that bid and recommend the second low bidder.
Yes,
Mr. Attorney, do you have a problem? You don't have any problem with that?
No, sir. Your purchasing procedures under your code allow you to look and make sure they are not only the lowest bidder, but the lowest responsible and responsive low bidder. And the staff has made a determination. I've seen a recommendation. I frankly agree with that.
And I have the bids here tonight, the last one.
I guess the only question I've got are stripping and buffing floors and carpet cleaning additional services as needed, or are they included in
It's,
this 24? It appears that it would be separate above
it is as,
this number.
it's both, because we didn't include the park and public works in this bid because they have their own cleaning that they have inmate labor and things to do their buildings. So that's why we had that pricing put out there for them if they need their floors done.
So for the services they're going to provide us, it's this number, then everything else will be do we have a historical, how much we normally spend beyond 24? Or in this case, do we spend $1,000 a year buffing and cleaning carpets?
I don't have that figure.
Just curious.
Any other questions? All right, moving on then to our work session agenda. Review of correspondence. Not really correspondence, but a couple of things. I did speak with the Carl Vinson Institute of Government today, signed the performance audit contract that we authorized at the last council meeting with them. They will begin, I guess I put this in the email, I can't remember. They will begin service the week after. The contract starts April 15th, that's on a Sunday. They'll begin performing that the following week. They would like to meet with me to see what exactly we want the scope of services to be. And so I suggested Mayor Pro Tem Witz also attend that meeting. I don't know if anybody else would like to be present. We're going to schedule that for the week, either of the 16th or the week thereafter. He is supposed to get some dates to me that he is available. If everyone wants to attend it, then there'll have to be a special call meeting, so just let me know.
I'd like to recommend that it's a special call meeting, that all members of council be present. Or at least all members of council have the opportunity to be present.
I think that's what I just put out there.
That's what I said, I'm asking that we would do that.
So I will get the dates and we'll see who's available, and if there are more than 4 council members, then we will make the appropriate announcements at that point in time. Also, I've called a special call meeting for this Friday at 2 o'clock at Briscoe Park. I went out there this past week and saw some things. I just would like, if council's available, I'd like to take y'all on a tour of Briscoe Park to point out some things and discuss some things. So if y'all are available, Friday at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Then we received maps. Mr. Treadway had these drawn and gave me a copy before he left. These are the new, I think, Mr. Davis or maybe Jason did them, I'm not certain. These are the new districts for the House and Senate and congressional districts. I don't know if y'all have these. If you want to ask Mr. Davis to make copies of these for all council, I think it would be beneficial since our city is basically being split in half on several of these. Mr. Davis, if you could make all council copies of these.
Could we get them sent to us electronically? Could we get them sent to us electronically? So
Yes.
they
I
might
don't
be
know if they're
available on the
safe, yeah.
state.
I'm not sure whether we did these internally or they were pulled down from the state website. I don't know. I'll make some color Xeroxes of them right now.
You can scan them and copy.
We're
Yeah.
anti-capsized districts, obviously.
Bottom line,
What you're saying?
The budget, we have a special call meeting on the 19th to go over the code red. I need to know some input from y'all. We need to have a budget work session meeting before our budget meeting in May. So I need to know if y'all want to stay later that night on the 19th and discuss the budget as well, or whether you want me to call another special call meeting for a work session on the budget.
How long do we expect the code red meeting to take?
Depends on what kind of public feedback we get.
What time is it starting?
7 o'clock, I would give each speaker 15 minutes and then leave the
How
rest.
many speakers?
3.
Just 7:45.
I would say maybe an hour and 15 minutes, just depends on how much public comes. How many citizens come and what their questions are.
so if we started the budget meeting at 8:30, everybody all right with that? We go to 7 to 8:30, I mean, let's say it's 7:15, we can take a little break and then.
Is there a reason to have staff present for that meeting? Do you want staff there? Because that means they're gonna have to stay for all of that.
No,
All right, so,
unless they want us to.
if you can just advertise.
Certainly, staff, you're certainly invited.
Special work session. All right, last thing is ARC, the meeting dates, the town hall meeting dates. I guess we'll hold off on this, but we're looking at either May 10th, May 17th, or May 24th on the TIA. I need to get with them and schedule a date. We'll wait until the next council meeting to see where we stand on our project list, but those are the 3 Thursdays in May that would be available. I think council last time said Wednesdays and Mondays don't work, so those are the Thursday dates. We have other board meetings on Tuesdays, so that's why we picked Thursdays. Okay, city attorney's report. Discussion item, CUP 1202 Farge, 1952 Farge Road. Is that you?
That's me. As you all know, we passed a revised personal care home ordinance, raising everyone up to a 1 acre lot minimum. People who were in the process of applying but didn't make the deadline, they have to come in for a conditional use permit. They can also ask for a variance of lot size if they wish. This is the first one that's coming in on a CUP asking for a variance in lot size. The lot, if you're coming off of 124 on Farge Road, it's the second or third house on the right. There are a couple of problems. One, the lot is like a little over ½ acre, so it's undersized. 2, it's a septic tank lot. Gwinnett County septic report said that the field was good for a population of 3 people. They didn't say 3 residents and 3 people, living there, just 3 people. So I don't know that the site will even meet any kind of code without being tied to a public sewer. Probably, we're still working on our detailed analysis of it. We're probably going to have our recommendation ready tomorrow. I don't think I can actually come out and say we're going to support this, but it'll go to Planning Commission for review at the next Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis,
Sure.
you said the house is on a septic tank,
Yes, sir.
and you also said Gwinnett County somehow in that.
Gwinnett County is in charge of all water and sewer. And Gwinnett County Health does the septic tanks. They do the approvals and the testing of the septic tank systems. When someone is going to move into a facility that is served with a septic tank, Gwinnett County Health goes out and inspects that tank and gives us a reading on the capacity of the tank, what it can handle, and the condition it's in. I don't know all the particulars of this one, but those lots, you may or may not know, back up to a creek. So you've got an area down there that's wet, that probably doesn't have a real high absorption rate soil. So even a fine septic tank known to man is gonna have a problem working there. This one is probably the original septic tank that came with the house. So literally the county said 3 people, that was it. And the lady is looking to have 2 or 3 clients, a helper and herself living in the house. So we're going to be overpopulating the septic tank right off the bat.
Any other questions? All right, moving on, chief soccer presentation. The owner was out of town last week on vacation, so he's asked that I put that on April 23rd. But just briefly, chief soccer has come to me a couple of times. They are interested in talking to council about whether or not we want to entertain allowing another soccer team to rent or utilize the fields. Currently, we have an exclusive contract with Blue Springs. I know staff is happy with Blue Springs and would recommend that we renew their contract. I think that contract is up in May or June. So I told Chief Soccer that they would have to present something to all of council, and the council can make a decision if we want to look into that further or not. So they'll be here hopefully on the 23rd.
Okay.
So what?
Can I make a comment on that? I was heavily involved in all that in 2010 when that first came about. And what we did is we referred all that to a committee to make a recommendation, and that recommendation come to council. So I don't know that I would want to hear from a group coming directly to council and overstepping the committees that we set up to make those recommendations to council.
That was in 2010, so that doesn't bind this council. At this point in time, I've told Chief Soccer that they can make the presentation. I'm going to sponsor their being on the agenda. If council decides, after listening to Chief Soccer, guys may decide we have no interest at all. Staff has recommended we stay with Blue Springs. We may just renew the contract and move on with Blue Springs. That was the recommendation of that committee we set up as well. But if council wants to open it up, then we'll need to sit down and discuss what that process is going to be, whether we want to start a committee again or how we want to handle it. But at this point in time, we've gone through that process before, and the recommendation's been made of Blue Springs, so the first step is to decide if we want to open it back up or not. So I believe anybody should have the opportunity to be heard, and Chief Soccer has come to me and wants the opportunity to address council, so I'm going to allow him to have the opportunity to address us. Moving on then to Master Transportation Plan. This is something I've talked with Chief about, and also with Gay Johnson. I don't know, I haven't talked to Mr. Davis about this. We have a master sidewalk plan, and we have a master plan for street paving. But we don't have a comprehensive plan that puts the two of those together. So we may have sidewalk projects, or we may have stormwater projects, or we may have paving projects, and like to think that we do know about all of them, but they may not necessarily be on the same page, so that we may be putting in sidewalks and then going back and doing streets or stormwater, things like that. So what I'm asking, I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention tonight. I'm gonna ask staff that they get together and work on this and come back May, maybe a work session agenda in May, and present a master plan to us for transportation improvements in the city. This is not TIA improvements, this is our existing pavings and sidewalks and things like that I'm asking them for. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. Open Meetings Act, Open Records Act, Councilman Howard.
Okay, I guess really what I'm trying to do here is open up the dialogue for exactly what is the definition of an open meeting, and some very good clarity with regard to what qualifies, what doesn't qualify. there's been a few meetings of recent past, and I think I'll let Councilman Emanuel discuss the current committee that he's assigned to. But I guess basically, I want us to have a good, clear understanding of what's required of us to advise of meetings, let the public know, have them, and go on and so on and so forth. There's a little unclearness on my part, so.
I had sent Kevin an email because I'm on a committee with 3 members. As I see it, if I speak to somebody, it's a quorum, because 2 out of 3 would make a quorum. So the question I have is, how do we assure in that situation or any other situation that we're conforming to the Open Meetings Act? If I call one of the other committee members, is that considered a telephone conference? If I email them, is that considered a meeting?
Under the current law or the law that was just passed? Because
Both.
and I will tell you that until Governor Deal, I'll address your email question first. Until Governor Deal signs the new legislation that was just passed, I would highly recommend that your committee and really anybody refrain from having any kind of a discussion of public policy issues. I'm putting aside votes. Votes really don't matter. Even the discussion of the issues, I would not have them via email, via phone call, either of the quorum, and that's what we're talking about here, the 2 of the 3, until Governor Deal signs the legislation. Once Governor Deal signs the legislation, your email communications will not fall under the definition of a meeting under the new act. They are, by law, prescribed to be open records. And I know that I've mentioned to some of you, I mentioned it to Councilman Howard today, that via an email, since we're talking about them, that I have the opportunity to be a place where our Attorney General will be speaking this coming Friday. I thought it was last Friday, Good Friday. It's actually this coming Friday, Friday the 13th, which would go from Good Friday to Friday the 13th. And actually, I'm not sure what that bodes for my conversation with him. But I intend to address certain issues with him. Among them are the extent of the open records of the email communications when it would be among a quorum of members and just how far that's going to reach. As far as telecommunications goes, calling on the phone and that sort of thing. Right now, I do believe that that you could run afoul very easily of having a meeting on the telephone. Interestingly, under the new law, it's not a question of whether or not you're having an improper meeting under the Open Meetings Act. It's a question of whether or not you are allowed by law to have that meeting, whether it's open or not, because under the new law, telecommunications meetings are not allowed with the exception of state agencies, except in some agencies of the state jurisdiction, with some very small exceptions. And so I think what I would tell you under the new law, unless you fall within one of those exceptions, you really shouldn't have a conversation with the members of the quorum of your committee unless you have fallen within one of those very specific exceptions for agencies that do not have statewide jurisdiction. Now, to play off of something you said, and this may not be what you meant, but just so that everybody understands, if you're having a conversation, let's just say for hypothetical purposes, it's you, Mayor Pro Tem Woods, and Councilman Howard who are on a committee. You know, if you call up, you know, Councilman Howard and ask him how Monday, Thursday service was last week, that's not a meeting because you're not discussing the official business, just so everybody's clear on that. As long as you're not discussing the official business or policy, either of your committee or as a group of the city, you're not having a meeting under the Open Meetings Act.
And Councilman Emanuel, there's actually 4 members on your committee because I'm a standing member of all the committees, so I'm a member of your committee, so it actually will take, it'll take 3 people to have a quorum.
Along that lines, I think this was brought up at the discussion or at the retreat.
Yes.
About my particular concern was the Economic Development Ad Hoc Committee that's meeting. That should that not be an open meeting? Should or should not members of council or the public be allowed to sit in on that meeting?
If it is a, if that is a standing committee of the city, my answer would be yes, it's an open meeting. It should be an open meeting with a regular schedule of meetings that anybody can attend, unless they're going into executive session or something like that, yes. It is something that should be open.
And if the meetings are discussing policies or recommendations that come in front of city council, would that be considered city business?
Yes, anytime, well, yes, sir, I guess I'll answer your question this way. If the committee was created, if it's a committee created underneath the powers given under your charter, then it's a public, it's a committee of the city, and would be something that needs to be open. Obviously, if a bunch of people get together and they're not an officially created committee by the city, but a bunch of people just get together and they discuss things related to the city, that's just private individuals. But yes, sir, if it's created pursuant to the powers granted by your charter, it would be a meeting. It would be a committee that would be subject to the Open Meetings Act.
And so I've discussed this with Mr. Talent, with the Senior Citizen Committee, what we'll do is, we all do have an official meeting to discuss the certification stuff from Gainesville or things like that. It'll need to be advertised. I haven't decided what we're gonna do with the ad hoc committee, whether I'll dissolve that and allow them to continue if they want in their own capacity, or whether we'll continue on with that. If it is continued, we do have right now standing meetings. We'll advertise those with Melissa. People cannot comment though or take part in the discussion if they are not members of those committees. But we will figure out what we're going to do with the ad hoc committee, so whether we'll dissolve economic development or not.
Okay, well, and then that kind of addresses the follow-up to me about the ad hoc. It looks like from earlier discussions a couple of weeks ago, you had decided you just have the meetings in your law office, but now you're not
So
considering
that would be a volunteer meeting. Any group of volunteers can do that.
Okay,
It would
but
not be an ad hoc committee.
Not
Right.
the ad hoc.
Right.
But I think at the time you were thinking
Right.
about.
Well, and that was, any group can get together at any time and discuss anything they want. That was my intent.
Well, there's certainly a lot more to do with this, and we won't belabor the thing tonight. It's gonna be very important for us all to make sure
Yes.
that we're up here,
Yes, sir.
and whatever we have to do that, I'm certainly gonna make sure it happens. So, thank you.
May I recommend one thing? Although I know this is such a new topic to me at least, as far as the new order that's been proposed to be signed by Governor Deal. Would there be a possibility that we can get a PowerPoint class on this, invite everybody in here and have that done?
I've asked that it be put on a May 14th work session, do's and don'ts of the Open Meetings, Open Records Act, after hopefully the law's been signed and Kevin's had an opportunity to talk to the AG and maybe do a little bit more research for him to give us a presentation.
Sure.
I had asked that originally was going to be on the retreat agenda. I don't think it made it, and so we'll ask that it be given at a work session.
Speaking of the AG, if I could real quick, are we in any danger of past meetings that we've held that could be considered in violation if there was someone to look at that? Are we in a position of danger?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that the answer to your question has to be yes. If someone wanted to bring an enforcement action, I think the answer has to be yes. If there's a violation of the Open Meetings Act or open records, and they were both actually, Councilman Sabah, they were both actually addressed in one bill. Open records is actually, there are more substantive revisions, I believe, to open records than there are substantive revisions to open meetings, based on my review of the law. But yeah, I think that if there's a violation, then
So there could be some lingering ramifications from past action, I guess is all I know.
that is the possibility that someone were to bring an enforcement action.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Sure.
All right, moving on, Governor's Walk. The floor is yours.
I'm so excited. We have made some progress with Governor's Walk. We have 3 houses that we have inspected now, and they are in the process of being fixed. We've made contact through registered mail or through advertisements in the Gwinnett Daily News with the 8 other properties that are in there. We are starting to arrange inspections for each of them now. I hope to have those inspections completed by the end of this month, and then we will move ahead from there. On the good side, the people we've inspected so far are actually residents that are moving in or trying to move in, and the houses that are being brought up to code. So all is right there. We do have a variance request going to Board of Appeals this week for one of the owners, new owner, who wants to get a delay in building the two-car garage because there were so many problems inside the house in 2020.
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise, yes. But it's moving ahead well. I've been in Kevin's ear on more occasions than he would care to have me, just to make sure that we don't do anything wrong in the process. But it's moving.
Have any holdouts or problem child, children?
I'm sure we will. So
We haven't run
far,
across them yet.
so far we haven't run across them.
Mr. Davis, is there anything written that you can send me so I can update Commissioner Bedrow? He sent out a message about a month ago.
I sent him back an email outlining exactly where we were in the process at that point in time. We'd already sent the letters out at that point, and that we were starting the inspections. So he's up to speed.
Fantastic.
Flag Day.
Mayor, can I interject? We're flipping on 7:30, and I really don't want to be late out there.
We've got a
Does
couple
anybody have any
things.
objection to?
We've got a couple of things. I'm gonna finish the agenda and we'll be just a few minutes late. We can move through these last couple of things quickly. Flag Day.
I'll move very quickly on this one. There were, again, Kevin, there were a couple of email messages that went back and forth on Flag Day. And simply to clarify this, I've asked Congressman Woodall, when he was here at a ribbon cutting ceremony, if he would be gracious enough to fly a flag over the Capitol building and present it to us on Flag Day. And at the same time, like we proposed, to draft a proclamation to be read by Mayor Couch or possibly him, Congressman Woodall, to dedicate June 14th as Snellville's Flag Day. Well, I asked Russell Treadway to spend $27.30 some, I can't remember how much it was. And the flag's been ordered, I assume. And we wanted to let everybody know in the room that there will be a Flag Day, there will be a ceremony. Chief Whitehead is gonna help out with the color guard, and maybe we'll have a great presentation on June 14th. Right outside here, also we will have Mr. Bruce Maney with the Sons of the American Revolution and their color guard fire their muskets on that day about 2 o'clock. The schedule hasn't been set. So that's information to you. And again, I said I'd be more than happy to pay for the flag. It will be my honor to do so. If anybody wants me to do this, I would gladly pay $27 and for the flag.
Knock yourself out.
Would it want to invite Southwest to see that, just for 2 months, or is that something that you would consider?
I definitely would love it. Yeah, sure. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think maybe I'll have to.
They'll be on summer vacation though.
Well, then, okay.
If anybody has any questions, talk to me and don't send me an email.
Community garden, Mayor-Person Wentz.
Yes, that's just that we're gonna have a resolution to be read on April 22nd by the mayor's president, just designating that area as a Snellville community garden and recognizing the people involved in establishing the community garden.
The post office, I've met with Congressman Woodall last week. I also met with Congressman Hank Johnson today. The Snellville post office is relocating the carriers to Centerville, and rumor has it that it is on a short list to be closed. So the last thing I want to see is the Snellville post office closed. I think that has the identity of the city. The post office doesn't believe they're on the short list to be closed, but I'm hearing different things from Congress representatives. I'm going to have some further conversations with Congressman Woodall, Congressman Johnson, agreed not to take any action until the next council meeting. But if it is actually on the short list to be closed, then I do plan on starting with a resolution and then getting some community involvement to see if there's anything we can do to keep the Snellville post office open. LCI updates, my understanding we need an exec session, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll come back after the council meeting for that. will be adjourned and reconvened